Welcome to the second episode of Using Minecraft for Writing. In this episode, we're going to discuss argumentative writing and how you can use Minecraft to get kids invested in their writing. My name is Ben Spieldunner. I'm an English teacher from Ohio. I'm also a Minecraft Global Mentor. Now, I kind of ventured into argumentative writing in Minecraft almost by accident. The idea was I wanted to create an experience that kids would want to write about, and that's really the whole premise of this entire series of using Minecraft to encourage kids to write, is creating that experience. What I didn't anticipate was the level of success that students would have with creating an experience. So when we talk about argumentative writing, all I mean is the sort of writing where students have to gather evidence. They have to then take the evidence and determine their position on a given topic, and then they have to defend that topic or their position on that topic based on the evidence that they have gathered. So when it comes to argumentative writing, in the past I've discovered it's something that students have a difficult time with, and there's all kinds of reasons why I think that may be. And I wasn't so concerned with the reasons why students were having difficulty with argumentative writing, although I think that is important. I was more concerned with, how do I get students to go beyond giving their opinion? How do I get students to be able to actually invest in what it is that they were writing? Now, in the past, I've done that by trying to allow students to pick topics they wanted to write about. And that's worked some of the time, but a lot of the time, even though students were interested in the topic, it didn't necessarily mean that they were invested in the argumentative writing process and the writing itself. Argumentative writing really takes a lot of perseverance, and so I think just to give students a topic they may be interested in, it's a good start, but it doesn't always take all students all the way through the writing process, because especially if you begin to lose interest in what you thought might have been an interesting topic, then students have kind of a way of kind of falling off the wagon, if you will, partway through the writing process, and I didn't want that to happen. And I decided that if I wanted students to really invest in their writing, I had to create an experience that would allow for that to happen. And so I used Minecraft. The experience that I created is something called the Verona Adventure, and you can actually download it now on the Minecraft Education website. The Verona Adventure happened by accident. I'd been in the process of teaching Romeo and Juliet, and we were reading the story, and I wanted to incorporate Minecraft into it because I know how relevant Romeo and Juliet still is today, although students don't always see the relevance. And so I thought if I could integrate something with, using Minecraft, where they could see they could actually experience Romeo and Juliet for themselves. And a good friend of mine and fellow English teacher from England, Simon Baddeley, kind of reached out to me, and so the two of us collaborated on this project. And he had created this beautiful city of Verona, and then across the street from the city of Verona was the Globe Theater. And I'd always wanted to have a 3D rendering of the Globe Theater, but I'd found one kind of early on in my teaching career, and it was kind of a neat kind of thing, but not one that students could actually play in. And so when I saw this world, I thought, okay, there are so many possibilities to what could be done here. I got the world about halfway through Romeo and Juliet, and so as we were finishing Romeo and Juliet, I started to realize that, I really wanted to have the students do some kind of writing. And at first I thought, well, maybe I could have them do a reflective writing. And the more I started to think about it, the more I started to realize that, we don't really get a sequel to Romeo and Juliet. And students a lot of times ask for, my opinion on what I think happened, after the golden statue went up and the fighting stopped. That and Simon's Verona world kind of led to this hybrid project, ultimately leading to an argumentative essay. And I wasn't even sure that was the direction that was headed at first. I really just wanted a world that students could kind of experience for themselves involving Romeo and Juliet. And at first I was going to have the students actually create the world. And that's probably something I might try and do next year. But as I started to think through this project, and as I started to explore Verona for myself, I started to realize that there are all kinds of possibilities here. And I thought, well, what if there was a sequel to Romeo and Juliet? And so the Verona Adventure is kind of like a sequel to Romeo and Juliet. But instead of it being a closed sequel, it's kind of open-ended, where students have the opportunity to explore and see for themselves kind of what's been happening. Now, what I did was I created an experience where students have to go and interview a number of characters. I want to say there's maybe 30 characters, somewhere around that, in this Verona world. And the premise is that they have to figure out what's been happening after the events of Romeo and Juliet. Fighting is broken out once again, and you are charged with trying to figure out who is behind all of this. Now, at the end of this whole thing, after students have collected, evidence in game, and they think they know who the culprit might be, they have to go see the chief watchman, who has temporarily made his office on the stage of the Globe Theater. So students will then, head to the Globe Theater. They get a chance to kind of experience what the Globe Theater would be like, how big it is, what the inside of it looks like. And when they talk to the chief watchman, he automatically throws them in jail. And the reason he throws them in jail is because you as a character have received all kinds of evidence from different people that you've talked to, and they just give it to you. And so this is automatically in their inventory, and so the chief watchman assumes that you must be guilty because you have all this evidence. What I didn't anticipate is the level at which students would be invested. And argumentative writing, I think, is probably one of the most difficult things to teach. And it's difficult to teach because as people, we want to think that we're logical, but a lot of times we're based more on emotion. And so when you ask someone to write a paper convincing someone else of their perspective, it's difficult because we want to base it in logic. However, we realize very quickly that we are not always logical people. And so there's that struggle between the emotional side and the logical side. And what I discovered through this project was that students actually took the evidence that they had, and then they also took the quasi-emotional piece where they're thrown in jail wrongly, and they actually meld the two together very beautifully in an argumentative essay, because now they're invested. They've spent the 2 or 3 days it took to collect all this evidence, and now they're just unfairly thrown in jail. And so they really feel that. They really feel like it's unfair that they've been thrown in jail. They really feel like it's they only have one option to get out, and that's to write this essay that shows the chief watchman that they are not in fact guilty, that they're in fact innocent, and they're in fact there to help Verona. I did not anticipate the level of success that the students would have with this project. I thought it would be a fun project to do. I thought it'd be a great introduction into argumentative writing, and I felt like both of those were true. What I was surprised by was the fact that the students were as invested as they were in this project. And so what it did was it opened my eyes to see how important it is to get students invested in what it is they're writing. What I mean by invested is more than simply a topic that they may be interested in. And so, there may be other ways to do that. However, what I'm suggesting here to you as an English teacher is that although it's great to have students be interested in their writing topics, and I think that's an important first step, I want to challenge you to take that next step and try to help create a kind of environment, whether that's in your classroom, whether that's a game-based environment, in which students become that much more invested in their writing. Using Minecraft to do that, you can really create a totally immersive world, and you can do that as a teacher by creating content yourself, like I did in the Verona adventure, or you can just simply let students explore for themselves. And you can have students write about different biomes if you want as they explore those biomes. You can have students write about wildlife. You can have students write about sustainable living. And there's all kinds of things that you can have students write about using Minecraft, in which you don't actually have to create the content yourself. You can simply let students explore a brand new world. And of course, you can always access the Minecraft Education website, where there are hundreds of lessons and worlds for you to be able to access, whether you access them for the lessons that they were originally designed for, or whether they're just a beautiful world that you like to have your students explore and have them maybe do an argumentative writing essay on a given prompt. So once again, I encourage you to use Minecraft to get your students invested in writing. It helps create an immersive environment in which they really become very invested in the topic that either they're given by you as a teacher, or a topic that they may even choose themselves. Thanks so much for tuning in, and happy building.